You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network.
Yatty's ball. Here we are, 22nd minute of overtime. Marshall, step behind the defense. Ruiz is in. Ruiz is shot. Ruiz. That's it. LA are the champions. It's in a race to get back. Beckham is going to try it over the halfway line, and he's going to hit it up the net. What a goal from David Beckham.
You are listening to the MLS Postgame Show, live on SPN Radio, powered by the Sports Podcasting Network.
Wondolowski settles, drives, he scores! Wando does it again, 1-1.
Laid off left side, and the blast is in far side, and it's 1-0. And the shutout streak of the Red Bulls is over, and so is the streak of games without a goal from Marco Cavallo.
Good day, good night, and welcome to the MLS Postgame Show, your weekly wrap-up to talk about all the action that went down in Major League Soccer in the last 2 days. Well, 2.5 if you count Friday night. It's late, Sunday, and we are going to talk about week 1 of action in Major League Soccer. Are you happy? Are you satisfied with the results? I'm Kevin Laramee. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Laramee, and you can follow the Sports Podcasting Network at SportsPodNet. You can find the MLS Postgame Show on iTunes and everywhere you get your podcast under the Sports Podcasting Network feed. Let's dive right into it, shall we? It started off Friday night with a, well, kind of a cracker of a game. Not cracker in the, it's close, who's going to win, but a cracker as 6 goals were scored in the first game of the 2017 Major League Soccer season. And no, it did not go well for the Loons. Minnesota on the road in Portland for their first Major League Soccer game in their history. A big defeat, 5-1 for Portland. I hope you had a few Timbers player in your fantasy team because, well, you made a lot of points. Diego Valeri, 2 goals, 1 assist in that game. Fernando Adi with the 2 goals in extra time. The game was already decided. It was 3-1 at that point, but Fernando Adi with 2 goals in extra time to really break the spirit of Minnesota. This game started off quite hard for Minnesota. At the 14th minute, they conceded their first goal on a nice play on the run of play. A great assist by, I'm not even going to pronounce it. Valtas. Never mind. The last name, in Diego Valeri on the Lawrence Olam's goal, and then Valeri, his first goal in his first game of the season in the 47th minute. Then it led to the highlight of Minnesota United's first game in Major League Soccer, the goal by Superman of his NASL time fame, Christian Ramirez, on a great feed by who? Exactly, by Johan Venegas. This is not the last time I'm saying this year. Johan Venegas will be the key for Minnesota United, and it started already in his first game for Minnesota competitively in Major League Soccer. Johan Venegas already was instrumental in not a win, not a draw. It was a defeat, but on a goal at least. And Johan Venegas got his first assist of the 2017 season. Great for Christian Ramirez, his first goal in Major League Soccer. Happy for the fellow. He's back where he feels he belongs in Minnesota on a big level for their first year in. And at least, you know what? They lost. They conceded 5 goals, but they got a goal, which is more than some other teams can say in their first game in Major League Soccer. So for those reasons, good job on that goal for Minnesota. A lot of work a lot of work to do in Minnesota. The thing is, after they scored Ramirez's goal in the 79th minute, they thought they could go forward. They conceded a penalty in the 82nd, just a few minutes after by Diego Valeri, and then the two goals in overtime, in extra time. So basically, they were playing so defensively that they didn't open up. But then when they got that goal, like, okay, there's about 12, 13 minutes left. Can we open up and try to get that equalizer? Not realizing that as soon as you put men forward, gaps are opening like, I don't know, it's too late to find an analogy, but gaps are opening quickly and they're not able to close them down. Two goals by ID and the PK that needed to be conceded because of the foul in the box. So Portland with a big win in their first game in 2017. Minnesota, good luck next week in your home opener. Not that you're going to need it, but at least maybe not concede 5 will be the first order of the day. Moving on to the second game in chronological order this weekend, and that was the Columbus Crew versus the Chicago Fire, the Tire Fire Derby of 2016. But both teams are touted to have a lot better seasons than last year. And it started very well for the Columbus Crew in the 17th minute when Ethan Finley, assessed by Justin Merrim, was able to open up his account for 2017 with the first goal of the Crew. By the way, Crew, good job on the new kit. Back to yellow, back to how you belong. Never mind the teal, love the yellow. But for the Fire, yeah, they tried to have 12 shots on net. The Fire were playing a lot better than previous years, yes. But defensively, they were able to do 32 clearances compared to the 14 for Columbus. Yes, it's a stat that's a little bit biased because if you're under pressure a lot, you do have to clear more. But what is interesting to me is they were able to still manage 12 shot in that game. There is some score effect, though, later on in the game when pressure was being put on. But David Accam with a great goal, 73rd minute, tied it up for Chicago. And it's a result that Chicago will take on the road. You start the season with not a defeat. You already have 1 point. You're way ahead of last year after one game. So this is a very positive beginning for the Chicago Fire. On the road, you get a goal, you get a point. Very decent on your first game. Ethan Finley with the goal for the Crew. The Crew were wanting more. They were literally losing their minds in their own words after this draw because they feel they left 2 points on the field. They felt because of the pressure they were able to put on the Fire earlier on in that game, they felt they should have got a second, and the fact that they didn't cost them a point. Yes, Captain Obvious, but the fact that they were not able to finish that last pass in the final third or finish that opportunity just before the Fire cleared it, they weren't able to, and the Fire were able to hold the pressure, and when they had the chance, they got that goal by David Accam. Yes, they had multiple shots on net, but only 3 on target, which would explain the difficulty for them to break that last line of defense for the Crew. So David Accam tying goal at the 73rd minute, a 1-run result between one of the 2 worst teams last year in the Eastern Conference of Major League Soccer. This year, things will be different. I guarantee you. The Columbus Crew and the Chicago Firecrackers no more, maybe? That's probably true. But the Fire and the Crew are either both playoff team or close to contender for a playoff spot in my book. Now, another great game on Saturday. Moving to the Western Conference, the champion of the Western Conference last year and U.S. Open Cup reigning and defending champions, FC Dallas, on the road in L.A. Never an easy place to play, but it's a new look L.A., new coach, new players, new captain, Van Damme, and new attitude. There's still some veteran in the team, but the old school, old guard of the LA Galaxy, Robbie Keane, Donovan, really, it's a new era in Galaxy land. And it started off badly. They conceded the first goal, Maximiliano Urruti of TFC fame, for a little while, and then Portland, now in Dallas, got his goal at the 47th minute, but Giovanni Dos Santos tied it up with a PK in the 53rd minute. But Kellen Acosta had other plans, and in the 69th minute, tied it up, assisted by Roland Lema for the game winner on the road 2-1. And now with that victory, which is almost, it is basically a statement victory, FC Dallas wants to be considered the best team in Major League Soccer, and they will act accordingly. Shots fired across the bow for the entire Western Conference. They have been put on notice, and it has been done by FC Dallas. One of everybody's favorite to win the Western Conference again this year. We'll see about the Shield. The team from Toronto might have something to say with this, but not with the performance they did yesterday. But Dallas got the big win on the road. The Galaxy, the veteran presence that used to be with the Galaxy, where they were able to squeak out results. They were able to tie games late, get the late winner, equalizer. Now it's a different core of players. That urgency was maybe missing, especially when Acosta tied it up. And for the end of that game, they felt terrible. The Galaxy, they felt they should have done better. Dallas are really happy with their win. They didn't steal it. They won it fair and square. And now going back home with 3 points in their opening game in the 2017 season for the defending and reigning Western Conference and Supporter Shield champion, basically. They won the season in the Western Conference. I know they didn't get to the Western Conference final. We know that. Seattle and Colorado. Was it Colorado? It feels like forever ago. It was Colorado. It's only like 2 months ago, I know. But they won the Supporter Shield. So the defending Shield holders have won their first game of the regular season in 2017. Now going to a Western Conference, Eastern Conference matchup once again. This time it was at the Riot Rio Tinto Stadium in Salt Lake City. Real Salt Lake, Toronto FC, 0-0 draw. A game of two halves, like every soccer game, there's at least two halves, yes. But in the first half, Seba got tripped in the box. And Nick Raimondo, goalkeeper of RSL, did what Raimondo does. He stopped the penalty for the 29th time in his MLS career. That has to be a record. Like, I don't think there's even a stat to explain that, or a record who keeps track of that. But 29 PK saves in your career in competitive games, that has to be a record. Nick Raimondo, PK stopper superstar. And he changed the tide of that game. Yeah, Toronto had most of the opportunity and could have buried that goal and able to absorb pressure for the rest of the game and get out of Riot with 3 points. Toronto felt they should have won the team. And a good quote by Kurt Larson on Twitter at Curtis Larson. Kurt Larson, if like you never really get teams coming out of Riot, Rio Tinto, feeling they should have won. Like, it's a tough place to play. The altitude, the weather, the different difficult conditions from time to time with the wind makes it a difficult place to play. And for Toronto FC, in their first goal this season, they made it to the MLS Cup final. Everybody was wondering if there was going to be a MLS Cup final hangover, at least in this first game. Yeah, they didn't get the win. They had the opportunities. They didn't really get it. There was another few chances, but Bradley even had a chance later on in the second half. But Raimondo was there to make the saves, and he was there to literally stop everything, especially that penalty. Just once, a very important thing, Steven Bittershore, which I used to love watching him play a few years ago when he was with the Quakes. Nick Hagelin, Jovinko, and Altidore all got a yellow. Two of them, it's literally for unsporting behavior, dissent, unsporting behavior, persistent infringement. Those are all like attitude and emotion in the heat of the moment reactions and you get a yellow card out of it. It'll be interesting to keep a track, and we will keep track here on the MLS Postgame Show every Sunday, 1 a.m. live on SPN Radio. We will keep track of the yellow cards accumulation for certain superstars in the league. After one game, Javinko, Altador already have a yellow. We'll get there soon. There's players who got red carded on Saturday, but that's a lot of red cards early in this season. And different games, superstars got yellow cards early. Teams that are going with more aggressive fouling tactically almost in the midfield really got yellow carded this weekend. I'm wondering if it's a directive. Yes, there have been some rule change by Pro. And if you are wondering what they are, you can go a few days ago. You can go to mlssoccer.com. Peter Walton had a phone teleconference with different journalists talking about how 2017 season will be different for Major League Soccer. The video assisted refereeing is going to come into play as well, but they do have different different way to interpret some of the rules, and the persistent infringement, the unsporting behavior, dissent, persisting infringement, dissent. Those are the 7 yellow cards that were in this RSL and Toronto game. Not one is for a really bad tackle. Yeah, behavior, you could say, but the way it actually happened is more for, dissent by Chris Shuley. It's literally arguing with the referee. Unsporting behavior, reactions, pushing the ball, not necessarily playing it cool. Those are all cards that are subjective for the referee. It's not like he sees it and he has to give it. It's whatever he hears, whatever he feels, whatever he believed the game needs at that time to not make it escalate. But there has been a lot of those yellow cards this weekend across the board in Major League Soccer for dissent, infringement on sporting behavior. And it will be interesting to see if that trends follows suit, because then the players will have to adjust their play, their reactions, their instinct. And that could lead to some very confused player on the pitch in the next few weeks. But that yellow card situation will be interesting to keep an eye on throughout the season, the 2017 season in Major League Soccer. Moving on to Colorado, New England. Terrible game. New England are terrible. I know I predicted other team to finish worse in the league. New England might be that team. We'll see. It's not as bad as I say. They got 9 shots, only 3 on target, which is still one more than Colorado did. But what Colorado was able to do is get that ball behind the white line into the net. Baji, yes, Dominic Baji for the Rapids, a goal at the 52nd minute. That's all they needed defensively. They were solid. They were able to limit the opportunities for the Revs. The Revs only had 4 corners. They were trying to cross a lot, but Colorado was able to clear all those balls in the box without necessarily too much of a trouble. 29 clearance for Colorado for a 1-0 win. A lot of people, yours truly included, believe Colorado will have maybe a step back type of season compared to their run last year. And it's not just a run in the playoff. Go back to the regular season as well. Colorado at one point, even before Tim Howard joined the club, had a over 2 points per game average. That's crazy. That was insane. Zach McMath and then Tim Howard and back to McMath. They did have a great season. They were consistent. We'll see if this is going to happen again in 2017. Nice to see Eric Miller for the Rapids, former Montreal Impact first round draft pick of a few years ago. Speaking of the Montreal Impact, we'll be talking about them in a second. The other game on the docket here, we had DC United against Kansas City at home in DC United, which, by the way, their new stadium the ground has been broken. We'll see where that leads. No goals in that one, 0-0. 9 shots for DC United, 15 for Sporting Kansas City, 6 on target. DC United looked a lot better than they did a few years ago. I think they're finally finding that project, that consistency to get that ball and get it on target. And we forget sometimes to just get the damn ball on target. It's not that easy. But 6 out of 9, talking about a two-third compared to a one-third success for Kansas City. 5 shots on target on 15 shots. 0-0. We'll take a break. And well, actually, we're not going to take a break. We're going to plow through because that's what we do here on the Major League Soccer post-game show. We do plow through. And to plow through to the next game, because it was actually surprising. The Houston Dynamo. What a goal. Kubo Torres with, in my opinion, the goal of the weekend. There's been some nice goals. Yes, there's been some terrible goals. Very, very bad goals. But this goal, free kick, Kubo Torres, changes everything for me for the Dynamo. Like, because of last few years, we expect the worst out of the Dynamo. And with the very terrible way Kinnear finished his coaching job a year and a half now, more than a little less than that, with Dynamo back to the earthquakes. And the Dynamo were literally in shambles, and it's been difficult for Matt Jordan, technical director, to adjust everything in the Torres situation and in the injuries, and then doesn't want to play. And what is going to happen? Scored the first goal for the Dynamo in 2017. Shot across the bow once again. If Dynamo and Kyoto and Alex can get together and form a dynamic trio and get some balls behind the white line, it could be dangerous. Yeah, Clint Dempsey got one goal back later on in the 58th minute, but Kubo Torres with a great free kick goal, about 25, 28 yards out, straight into the right side. Keeper couldn't really do anything about it. Stephen Fry, which he is known for his great save, wasn't meant to be on that one. But Eric Kubo Torres with a great opening goal for the Houston Dynamo in 2017. 17 shots, 14 for Seattle, 5 on targets for the Dynamo, 4 for Seattle, practically identical, very, very close to be. But what was the difference here? It was the best players. Torres was evidently better than I have seen him in a long time in Major League Soccer. I haven't seen him this successful since maybe his Chivas days. And that is a lot to say for this player in Major League Soccer. So, what's going to happen now? Does it change everything for the Dynamo? Does this victory change my prediction? Nah, they'll probably be 10th or 11th in the Western Conference. But at least it brings some suspense, brings some thriller to the possibilities of what can happen in the Western Conference. There's always going to be surprise teams. There's always going to be a team where we feel they should be a lot better and they're having a terrible season. Those are bound to happen. Still feel the Quakes and Dynamo are not those two performances. We're going to get to the Quakes in a second. Those two performances are not necessarily indicative of their season they're about to have, but they are encouraging if you're a fan in Houston or a fan in San Jose. Speaking of San Jose, guess I had to go there once, right? I had to talk about it. San Jose Earthquakes dominated totally the Montreal Impact. Montreal Impact did not look like the team they were late last year, and their playoff run, very difficult night for Patrice Bernier, but the whole midfield as well. If you want to know more about this Montreal Impact game, I urge you to go to sportspodcastingnetwork.com after this show and listen to my show that I did earlier today of the Woodworks 2017 season edition, where I break down for 20 minutes what the hell happened in the midfield. Congestion led to confusion to eventually lead to deception. The deception came at the 17th minute when Anibal Godoy chipped and a Coke Evan Bush for the game winner. And the way it all happened, the 16th minute, 30 seconds, Evan Bush got the ball, passed it to Asun Kamara, which Asun Kamara was supposed to play at a right back position. A few days ago, Cabrera got injured. Kamara got switched to the center back position, even though he has been practicing over the last few weeks at the right back position, now at a center back position with Chris Duval taking his place on the right side. Instincts are a little different, and that will become very important at around the 66th minute. But before that goal, Kamara gets the pass. He thinks he's closer to Bernier than he is. Bernier expects to pass maybe a little harder, a little nonchalant on the play. Patrice Bernier not going towards the ball when the ball is coming to him, letting the ball travel by himself. And what had to happen happened. Chris Wondolowski is coming, strips the ball off Patrice Bernier as he receives it, goes on, sees Godoy open, gives it to Godoy right away. Godoy chips the keeper, and it's 1-0, and it's enough to get 3 points out of Ion Stadium for the San Jose Earthquakes. All night long, it was difficult in the midfield. All night long, Bernardello was stepping on Bernier, was letting too much space for Donadel, having to track back and cover too much ground. Players, they're playing a little differently. And for Montreal, they are playing a little bit differently in 2017, wanting to use ball possession, wanting to go a little higher on the pitch as a block, wanting to not necessarily be known as the counter-attack team all the time, but wanting to control and dictate a little bit more. Not all the way on the other side of the spectrum with the tiki-taka. No. Just talking at least a little bit more ball possession. And we have to say 52-47, they did get ball possession, but it's not just about ball possession. It's about ball possession while you're going up on the field, controlling that ball and controlling those passes. 69% passing accuracy for the Montreal Impact. That is way too low for a Major League Soccer team that is wanting and willing to get success in this time period of an era of Major League Soccer. Montreal, what they need to do going forward, if they want to continue to have that ball possession, I'm saying ball possession, they're not necessarily having a ball possession style. But if you compare it to what they used to do, there's that. But because of injuries to Cabrera, to Andres Romero not back yet, and because Adrian Oregi's paperwork are not finalized, those 3 players are more useful and they are better in a system where they would use the ball possession, small passes, be able to control that tempo of a game and find ways to get the ball, the service to a Piatti, to a Mancosu, which was non-existent in that game. Mancosu way too high, had to come back through too deep to get the service. Wasn't possible. Piatti was isolated on the left side. Donadel was doing his best, and the best Montreal Impact goal scoring chance came from Donadel's foot in that game from about a free kick 25 yard out, hit the small net on the viewer's left side of the goal. It was very close, just maybe a foot. I was going to say a few inches, but a few inches might be pushing it a little. If you add the width of the post and how left to the post it was probably a foot off, which is not too bad when you're starting 30 yards out and the angle necessary. But that was the closest thing to a goal for the Montreal Impact in that game. San Jose dominated that game. They really found a way to exploit Montreal's deficiencies in the midfield by creating a counter-attack of themselves, saying, you know what, you want to get the ball, we're going to get it back, give it to our fast striker Wondolowski and Godoy up there, and Arunya, who made his debut for the Quakes, played a solid game as well. It's always great to see Wando. Yeah, he's on the descent, but still a very useful player. We talk about often on Soccer Today, which you can listen, by the way, Mondays and Tuesdays around dinner time, and the rest of the week, 10 a.m. on the Sports Podcasting Network. We talk a lot on Soccer Today about MLS lifers, veterans, players that just play in MLS their entire career and make it at home, that they know this league. They get almost a sixth sense of what's going to happen, how it's going to play out. Wondolowski, with those, let's face it, when he tied Roy Lassiter's record a few years ago, I think it was 4 years ago now, 2013, when he tied that record, the way he was getting goals is not like super nice goals from far away. It's a poacher. He's a poacher type of striker that does get hot, but he's a poacher of a player. And in a midfield that's not clicking, in a midfield that's stepping on each other's toes during a game, and you do have some of those bouncing ball that you can pick up, a player like Wondolowski is very useful. And we saw that, and he was able to use Urania as well. So a little deeper role for Wondolowski. But for the Quakes, it's almost revolutionary. It's not just Wando, and it's not a big drop off the pillow feet. Now, you do have a pillow feet. Adam John, by the way, if you don't know, that's his nickname if you are a Quake fan. Is he actually with the club still? That's a good question. I haven't seen Adam John No, he wasn't on the starting 11 or on the bench for this game. Well, actually, he didn't play. But Adam Young, I used to like just because Pillow Feet. I think that's a cute nickname in Major League Soccer. But for the Quakes, it's a good tournament event. Tommy Thompson, midfielder from the Bay Area. I like to see him play. His enthusiasm when he plays for the Quakes is very, very contagious. And you can see that transfer throughout the midfield. And Tawando and Urinia. Again, an encouraging performance by the Quakes. They're not going to win the cup. Who knows? Maybe they're going to make me eat my words now. But an encouraging performance for the San Jose Earthquakes. And, well, actually, maybe something to worry about for the Montreal Impact. A very thin bench yesterday. Some due to injuries, some absences due to lack of signing in the offseason. There will be better signing this summer. We all know Blair and Zamali's coming late June. But for now, a very unproven bench. Young players. It's great to see young players getting a chance. Belou Tabla made his debut for the Montreal Impact when he was subbed in for Argiro. But MLS standards, it was a very thin bench. He did not have a lot of threats, a lot of options on the bench to come into the game and to create a threat instantly for Montreal, which you did have for San Jose. When San Jose did put Shea Salinas on, boom, already you had some chances. Already you saw some movement and some influence on the game, which was not the case for Montreal. And it'll be interesting to see how much influence, but especially playing time, the young Barutabla will get this year. 17-year-old, the Wonder Kid for the Montreal Impact. Moving on to Sunday's game. We're almost done, people. How you like it so far? Let's go on Twitter for a second. We do have a few comments here. Garrett, you want to call from Orlando? Text me your phone number and I'll call you. How about that? Just DM me your phone number, Garrett, and I will give you a call from Orlando as we speak. So I was going to get to Orlando. So Gareth, if you are willing to give us a call, that would be awesome. I will call you back as soon as I have your phone number. But I'm going to get to Orlando in a second. And it's quite a historical night for Orlando. It was their opening of their new stadium. It was a very nice atmosphere. You had a great sense of achievement, a big stadium. It looks great, I have to say. The Pride tribute, but the colors, the purple, the great tifo, the look when the referee and the player made their way onto the pitch was just awesome. That was beautiful to see. So I am surprised by what Orlando was able to do, the way it looked and all that. So that was for me, a game that was surprising. I was not expecting Orlando to be that successful early on. All right, we're going to take a second. We're going to have a phone call in a few seconds. But before that, Orlando, unfortunate, the injuries today. If you don't know, Kaká left with an injury, and Carl Lawin, Carl Lawin as well had an injury scared late. But so it's interesting to see how serious is the injury for Carl Lawin. Hopefully it's not too serious, but Kaká is the one that seems to be more serious with a leg injury. But Carl Lawin got that goal. He got that first goal this season and the victory for the Orlando City Lions. We're going to have a caller. We're calling Gareth from Orlando live as we speak. So, Orlando, what's going to happen in Orlando? How important is it? We have Gareth joining us on the line. Gareth, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Kevin?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for listening and thanks for supporting us for a long time now, Gareth. How was the experience? I bet you were at the stadium tonight.
Yes, sir.
How was the 1-0 victory? First of all, how's the stadium?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was more than I could imagine, right on to the pitch, no bad seat in the house at all. I'm staring at it actually right now from my window.
Very nice. So you got the goal, you got the Kyle Larin goal. It's kind of fitting that Kyle Larin is the first player to score a goal at the new stadium, kind of like the prodigy and the best rookie and best first round draft pick Orlando could have got. How did the stadium react to that goal?
Oh, it was electric. I mean, the wall exploded. The wall was exploding the whole game from an hour before the game to hours after the game. So it was just electric. I mean, I was a little gone by that point, anyways. But
You speak about the wall. How was that experience? Because we have seen the wall in Major League Soccer at some extent, but the size in Orlando, it's reminiscing of maybe not Dortmund. We're all maybe exaggerating here, but it's something we haven't seen in MLS so far.
it was just so beautiful. That's all I was thinking. It was just how far this country, this region has come when it comes to soccer. It was just absolutely beautiful. I mean, you have a cup holder, a beer, and you're just standing. It's just like you're at a bar, and the game's right there in front of you. It was just gorgeous.
And just to finish on the stadium experience, because I'm a stadium geek. I kind of like new stadiums. It's an important aspect of the footy culture. Let's not lie to ourselves. What's the upgrade? Like, how good is it to finally get out of the Citrus Bowl dump?
Oh, I mean, the Citrus Bowl is what it is. It's been a namesake for years. I mean, there's college football that's there, and it's great for football. That's exactly what it's made for. But this is made specifically for soccer, for the right type of football. So it was just spectacular.
Yeah, let's talk about the game for a second. We talked about the goal. Are you worried about the injuries to Kaka and a leg injury, and with Kyle Larin as well with an abductor scare? Are you worried at all that maybe Orlando with that victory, but it might be costly in the future?
I mean, especially for Kyle. I mean, Kaka kind of is what it is. We can't do much about that. But if Kyle gets hurt, it's going to be it'll be a real downer for a third year. So
now, where do you go from here? Like, you got one victory, a big 3 points for Orlando, but it was a difficult offseason for Orlando. Let's be honest to ourselves here, Garrett. We did have a lot of player movement, but more on one side than the other. Players going out necessarily being replaced by players coming in, especially with the departure of Kevin Molino. What is your thought before, like, even if they won today, like we did win, but what did you think of the offseason in Orlando? Are they going in the right direction?
I believe they are going right direction. It's a little slower than I want it to be, but I just think the coach has been a little bit. It's been a little bit difficult because he has a few players that he's trying to get rid of, and they don't. You want to go like Mateos, but I think we're going in the right direction. It's a long season. This is the first game. Next game is Philadelphia, and then we just gotta prove all the doubters wrong. I mean, most pundits pretty much said we're gonna finish 8th or worse.
Yeah.
I mean, so we just gotta prove them wrong, one game at a time, and go City.
Garrett, thank you very much for calling, and you can follow Garrett on Twitter at Strength of Spear. Garrett, have a great night.
You too, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, Garrett, for the call. It's always great to hear from you. And starting next week, I will open the phone lines. I will give you the numbers and everything for next week's show. We will have multiple phone lines for you to call in. And we're going back to the results. We have 2 games left to wrap up the show in the MLS Postgame Show, our first edition of 2017. This is Week 1. Atlanta United, another expansion team, has debuted, this time at home. And before we talk about the game, I have to go on a little, very, very tiny bit of a rant. God, those goals are ugly. Not the goal scored, the actual goals themselves. We all like those goals where you have like the woodworks and the post, like the bar and the post, all well, and then you have the net neatly hanged, and it's like a perfect box, and it looks all neat and sleek and all beautiful and pretty, and everybody's happy. But no, we have those ugly goals with the loops to make the net go back in Atlanta, and those look silly. I hope the situation is corrected very, very soon, because those are really ugly and they actually hurt my retina. So please, Atlanta, Arthur, buddy, please, come on. The amount of money you put on your team, that you put on everything in Atlanta, on the kits, on everywhere, can you just put maybe a few bucks more to fix those damn goals? Thank you. Speaking of goals, the first goal ever for Atlanta United was scored at the 25th minute. Sorry, Dwayne, that was very close, but 25th, not 24th. 25th minute for Atlanta United. Yamil Assad, assisted by Tyrone Mears. A great cross that was received by Mears, one-timer in the box. He hit it. It actually was deflected, but it went 5-0 when it would have been a saved, but it went 5-0 and actually went into the net, and the Red Bulls were beat. Robles is not his best goal stopping on that one, but it was not meant to be for Atlanta. What usually happens with expansion team, and we have seen that with Minnesota. Remember 35 minutes ago when I talked about the 5-1 loss of Minnesota? Late in games, expansion team could be dangerous, especially in your first one, especially when it's tight and you're winning. You think we can do this, and then decides otherwise. And an own goal at the end of the game was very similar to the first goal by Atlanta, which is what 1-2 in the box, passing into the open guy. But the Red Bull player missed it. It hit the Atlanta onto the box player and went into the goal for the Red Bulls' second goal. The Red Bulls 2, Atlanta 1. The Red Bulls spoils Atlanta's debut. And if you want to have a feel-good moment, please take a second, go on mlsoccer.com and watch the opening goal of this game at the 25th minute by Yamil Assad. The stadium erupts, 50,000 people going ape, you know what, and it was great to see. It's great to see a new team. Like, we'll see Minnesota next week and their opener, but it's great to see a team come into the league with that fanfare, with that amount of hype, and that amount of delivery. They scored a goal. They look decent. They got 14 shots, 4 on target only, but 14 shots they generated. They had a 55.2% possession. They won 56 duel against a Red Bull, a very decent team. Atlanta United was impressive in defeat, especially considering their expansion brethren 48 hours before. So, for Atlanta, a lot of things they can build on. Still things to work on, like discipline, which more, not discipline, focus late in the game was what cost Atlanta. But we'll see. It was Tata Martino's first game in MLS, and it was close to a win. Could have been. It could have been. And now, to finish the show tonight, to finish the first edition of MLS Postgame Show in 2017, a dud of a game, the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Philadelphia Union. The Whitecaps, fresh off their great home and away series versus the New York Red Bulls, now in the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions League versus Tigres. Yeah, it won't be easy. It's going to be very, very difficult, like almost impossible. Let's not forget Montreal got lucky in their draw in the CONCACAF Champions League 2 years ago when they actually faced a Costa Rican team in the semifinal and not a Mexican team. Mexican team are tough to beat, especially Tigres, when they will want to win that one to go back to their former glory and to have it's their opportunity with players of Gignac and Sort. It's now or never for them. Gignac's not going to stay in Mexico forever, and it's maybe now or never for them to get some silverware. So it'll be difficult for the Whitecaps versus Tigres in the CCL, but this is not about the CCL. This is about Major League Soccer. First game for Vancouver in 2017 at home in 0-0. Freddie Montero made his Vancouver competitive debut at the 59th minute when he was subbed in for Kakuta Mane, Breck Shea at the same time for Eric Hurtado. Nothing special. What was impressive for me in this game, and I think we're repeating ourselves here, Alphonso Davies. Like, Alphonso Davies is the story right now. The 16-year-old kid, 16-year-old midfielder, started the damn game in Major League Soccer and was arguably the best player for the Whitecaps this game. He's 16 years old. We've said on Soccer Today this week that, you know what, let's anoint him. Let's go with him. Let's get behind him. Let's make him our champion and push him to the moon. Think that's what needs to happen. Never mind, it's too soon. Never mind. That wasn't a year ago. Consistency is what we need to see on his part. But every test this kid has been given, he aced it and then some. Alphonso Davies, best Canadian soccer prospect ever. Yeah, it was naturalized, but doesn't matter. Still Canadian. Best Canadian prospect ever. Very, very high probability. Very high probability this kid becomes an amazing player for the Canadian men's national team, for an MLS team for a few years, because the way, that you're seeing where I'm going with this. He's so good that he's not going to stay in the league for so long, and that's a shame. But you can't blame someone for wanting to advance, and if that means going to a different league, a higher perceived league in the world, that's all well and good. Alphonso Davies, best player of the Whitecaps in 2017, has a good chance of happening. Again, like, we're exaggerating and we're a little bit tongue-in-cheek when we're talking about Alphonso Davies. He's 16 years old. But if you're good enough, you're old enough. And if you're big enough, you're good enough, you're old enough. And that's what Alphonso Davies is bringing. And it's great to actually see positive stories for young kids, young development kids for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Because I was going to say for Toronto, for Vancouver. It's not just Vancouver. Montreal and Toronto have been the same. You had some great stories. Ballou's probably the next one. Hamilton and Toronto probably. But for Vancouver, Davies is a godsend. Great positive story and a great way to start the season for his performance. The game was terrible, 0-0 draw, and both teams will be kind of happy with the result they have. Vancouver, they'll be happy because they played Thursday in Union because, well, they didn't get beat. A lot of people are thinking the Union will have difficulty replicating the success of 2016, especially in the regular season, and that is a fair assessment in my books. Send us your game reports, feedbacks, thought on your favorite team. Every Sunday, 1 a.m., I'll be recording and going live with the MLS Postgame Show, and you can send me emails all throughout the week, throughout the weekend, during games, after games, at mlspostgameshow@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Kevin Laramee, at Kev Laramee, and the network at SportsPodNet. Like our Facebook page, facebook.com/sportspodcasting network. And until tomorrow night, Monday, 6 p.m. for Soccer Today, well, I am Kevin Laramee. This has been the MLS Postgame Show, and have a great soccer.
You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.